Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we are back with everyone's favorite, the TikTok Roundup. So what we've been doing over the last few months is playing this kind of like dating game style where I like swipe left or swipe right, and at the end of the video, I compile all of the swipe rights onto a post on my community tab page where you get to vote for your favorite piece of content of the month. It was pretty close, but last month's winner is...
I'll tell you something quite funny. So I saw a podcast episode the other day. It was like an interview with the owner of an electrolyte company, and they said in the past electrolytes have been seen as there for only for people who sweat, and I was like, yeah, that's because they are.
Thank you to everybody who took the time to vote and participate in last month's video. At the end of the video today, you are also going to have the opportunity to vote on your favorite piece of content from this month. But without further ado, let's dive into the first video.
You know you can be a size 4, 6, 8, 10, or any size and still start a GLP-1 with Willow. A couple weeks ago, I realized I had some events coming up that I wanted to feel my best in, so I joined Willow and started a GLP-1 just to feel better in my own body. I realized that I have really no time in the near future to really work out and focus on my eating, so I wanted something that was just going to give me a little help.
So right off the bat, I just want to be clear, I am not anti-weight loss medications or GLP-1s for weight loss, but there are a number of issues that I have with this ad. First and foremost, the person featured in this ad they have no place being on a weight loss medication. I'm sorry, but this is already a seemingly thin person who is, this is like abusing a medication that many people do actually need and you do not. Secondly, I just hate this notion of like, I don't have the time to eat well or move my body, so I'm just gonna take a drug. It's not what it was designed for. Because also the second you get off of it, you're just gonna gain that weight back if you don't do anything to clean up your habits, which this person obviously says that they're not willing to do. And taking it a step further, it continues to reinforce this idea that what you look on the outside determines your health and your worth. We are currently living in a society that's really pushing toward thin equals healthy, thin equals desirable, thin equals worthy. And I realize I'm a thin white lady with a lot of privilege, but I believe that we need to be shifting the priorities back to our actual health and not just what we look like on the outside. I find ads like this incredibly manipulative, incredibly misleading, and overall just a net negative. So we are swiping left on this, but let's go to the next piece of content.
And cut you off, don't want to slip and fall in love.
This is my friend Tina Tang. I actually had her on the channel months ago where we sat down and talked all about menopause and training through menopause. But let's really quickly read the text on the screen. To outsiders, she's fickle. To me, I have seasons in life, even in exercise. So essentially, Tina's going through and showing a lot of different types of movement qualities. We've got some kettlebell skills, we've got some heavier lifting, we've got some plyometric work. And I think quite often coaches end up getting pigeonholed, whether it's like by themselves or, branding or whatever. They get pigeonholed into like one type of movement is the best. Kettlebells or calisthenics or bodybuilding or powerlifting or CrossFit or plyometrics or whatever it might be. And, while I think from a marketing standpoint, that's totally fine. It could probably benefit you. On the flip side, I think from an overall health standpoint, which I would assume most coaches are, trying to help people with, you do want to diversify your training and your movement or your movement qualities. If we look at different training qualities, if you're only focused on one thing, you're probably missing out on a lot of other benefits. For instance, if your only focus is packing on as much muscle mass as possible, you're probably going to lose a good chunk of mobility and feel really stiff. If the only thing you're focused on is running, if you fall, you're probably going to break your arm. That is slightly dramatic, but I can't actually think of two people right off the top of my head that has happened to. Now, I've talked about it in this video up here, but ideally for our long-term health and to make sure that we have a diversity of options in our toolbox, we do want to make sure that we're training a diversity of movement qualities. The more that we're able to drop a few reps in each bucket of mobility and speed and power and max strength and hypertrophy and cardio and mobility and whatever, the better we're going to feel and the better our health is going to be more likely as we age. So I love this video. I love Tina. We're swiping right.
This is not functional strength. It's just being silly. This is not functional strength. It's just a waste of your time. This is not functional strength. It's just showing off. Doing funky exercises in the gym might make you feel like a professional athlete. Exercises that are comfortable to load heavier or for more reps each week, like deadlifts, squats, rows, pull-ups, And presses are where true strength lies, because strength is functional on its own and doesn't need a fancy costume to get the job done.
So I think we all have different definitions of what functional strength or functional training means, but here's mine. Functional training is simply training with purpose. So if you can justify why something is in your program based off of your individual goals, it's functional. Now, I will say a lot of the exercises that she's demoing are like she's making them look really silly on purpose. I've never seen anyone do some of these things in the gym. But let's take, for example, like she does something standing on a balance board, right? And you'll see that a lot, either like a balance board or a Bosu ball. Now, if you are training that specifically because you just want to learn how to do it, you think it looks like a cool, fun party trick, it's functional, because your goal is to do that specific thing. But unfortunately, I see a lot of people programming, standing on a Bosu ball, standing on a balance board, standing on an unstable surface because they think it's going to make them more stable. When in reality, the crossover into day-to-day or training stability, you're going to be so much better off just actually loading up an exercise that you can train on the ground, because that is what we live on. We live on planet Earth, and studies have shown there's very little crossover training on these unstable surfaces into actual stability day to day, or if you're in a sport. And look, I used to fall into this trap of like leading with negativity and leading with a lot of judgment on certain things, but I think it's really important to be careful about dissuading people from doing exercises that maybe they enjoy or maybe they just want to like try and do for fun, because we are living in a society, at least in the US, where like 25% of people even meet the basic movement guidelines that are set out for us. So I think putting out content that is then poo-pooing on exercises without having any additional context is doing people more of a disservice and actually helping them. So we are going to swipe left on this content.
Taking you through my glutes and hammies workout while I tell you why I don't lift heavy anymore. It's not because I hate the struggle of pushing weight or I wasn't able to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's actually the opposite. That's what drove me into weightlifting. Being able to use the weight you thought you had no chance with. I absolutely love that feeling. But honestly, today I have no desire to lift heavy. And that's because recently I've had way too many friends and family get injured while lifting, especially with barbell back squats. Just this year, I've had 3 of my closest friends injured in the knee, the spine, and the neck. And these people weren't new to lifting. They're experienced. They have many years under their belt. And you never think it's going to happen to you, but one wrong move could seriously injure you. This, of course, can happen as well when you're using lighter weight, but the chances increase a lot more when you're lifting heavy weight that you don't have much control over. I'm also not saying you absolutely will get injured if you lift heavy. There are many ways to prevent it, like stretching before and after your lifts, using a belt while squatting, or knee sleeves. But after watching my loved ones suffer in pain for months because of a silly little gym injury that could have 100% been avoided, I just choose not to go super heavy at the gym anymore. But that doesn't mean I stop pushing myself. I'm still using relatively heavy weight, but a weight that I have more control over. As long as I'm still feeling the burn, getting a good pump, and continuing to see progress, I'm happy with it.
All right, let's discuss risk versus reward here. Is there a risk of hurting yourself when you put external load on your body, anywhere on your body, and then move through deep ranges of motion? 100%. But in my opinion, the reward of doing so is so much more worth it than the risk of not doing so. Because everything that we have right now in the literature, in the studies on our long-term health, even for women especially, shows that having more muscle mass and increased density as we head into our later years is one of the absolute best things we can do for our health and longevity. So while this person paints a really sad story about like their loved ones getting hurt while they're lifting heavy, whatever that means, that's going to be relative to everybody. And like she simply can't bear it anymore. What about when that loved one stops training, they lose their muscle mass, they decrease their bone density to a place of osteoporosis, and then they end up losing their independence because they fall and they break a hip. They cannot play with their grandchildren because they can't get onto the floor. They are terrified day to day of falling in their own home and need someone to live with them. While I'm going to give this creator the benefit of the doubt and assume that maybe her message is, hey, you should only be lifting loads that you can control, because one of the things I just wrote down that I heard is she's lifting weight that I have more control over. I'm going to argue that maybe these people were lifting too heavy for what they could control. Because unfortunately, the message that I'm getting here is don't lift heavy things because you're going to hurt your back or your neck or your pussy or your crack. But yeah, I think content like this is so incredibly irresponsible because the risk of not training is too high. So we're going to swipe left on this, a hard swipe left. Reading the text on the screen, Pilates is cute, but osteoporosis is not. Go lift some weights, girl. Right on cue. I didn't even do this on purpose. All right, let's break this down because I want to really be clear that I'm not demonizing Pilates. Pilates is an excellent form of movement that can help with your coordination, your posture, your core strength, just like your overall mind-muscle connection. And if you're doing something like reformer Pilates, you're going to get even more bang for your buck because now we are, to a certain degree, adding external load. But here's the big difference, because people ask me a lot, like, oh, if I do reformer Pilates, which, has external load where I can increase the resistance, does that replace strength training? Most of the time, no. And here's why. The way that Pilates is traditionally programmed, it is much more focused on strength endurance than something like hypertrophy training or max strength training. And these are all different movement qualities. Again, that video I talked about earlier, that's going to break down what those are, what those look like, and the different adaptations that come from them. Pilates is traditionally, whether you're doing it on a mat, floor, or chair, it is high rep, it is a lot of time under tension, and it's far more focused on your slow twitch muscle fibers. Strength training is pretty much the opposite. It's going to be a lot more anaerobic, and it's more focused on your fast twitch or explosive muscle fibers. And training these different movement qualities leads to different adaptations. Again, I'm not saying that you should only be strength training. I'm saying that we want a diversity of movement. So Pilates is fantastic. And if that's the way that you want to work on your slow twitch muscle fibers, your strength endurance, fantastic. It does not replace traditional strength training though, because it is two separate things. So while I do love the overall message of this content, I don't really love that it is a little like poking at Pilates is like, that's cute. Again, tone is hard to read from just like text, like she's not even saying anything. But overall, I think this type of content is a net positive. So we're going to swipe right. Gentle reminder that more reps, lighter weight is meant for a woman's body. Push until failure and you'll start noticing a huge difference. Okay, how about this? Gentle reminder that content like this harms women's health and takes away our independence in a society that is leaning more toward having us in the kitchen pumping out babies in thin bodies that simply appeal to the male gaze. But yeah, go off, girl. We're swiping left. Okay, this next one we're gonna read. This was just like, I don't know, a sponsored ad I saw on Instagram from Quaker. And we're gonna read it first, and then I might piss off some parents. Fitness tracker app leaders. Parents are constantly moving, lifting, and hustling to keep up with their families. From spinning their kids around for the upteenth enthusiastic cry of again, again, to chasing a toddler on the loose or hauling what feels like the entire sporting goods store to the all-day tournament. These invisible workouts don't always show up in their fitness data. At Quaker, we've got protein products for the parenting workouts that count, even when they couldn't get counted. But what if they could? Your technology motivates, inspires, and supports many on their fitness journeys. Let's take it a step further and recognize parents for the effort and physical activity happening in households every day. So how about teaming up with us to add a parenting mode to your devices? Let's give parents the credit and data they deserve. And then there's a petition at the bottom. Let me provide a little bit of context about this is a Fitbit and how I use this. I have literally never in my life, and this is just my personal preference, I don't track strength workouts on here. Like I am not going to open up the exercise thing and like put strength training and then like track using this watch during my strength workout. And the reason I don't do that is twofold. Number one, I am not approaching my strength workouts from like more is better. And I know a lot of people do that. I just like, I get my workouts from my coach. I put them in my calendar. I get them done and like they're tracked on, what do we use? Like True Coach, whatever, Train Heroic, True Coach. And that's how they're tracked. Number two, there is quite literally no helpful data for me tracking my strength workout because the main pieces of data you're going to come away with are step count, heart rate, calorie burn. None of those things matter to me for my strength workout. And furthermore, it's still tracking all of those things. Like I'm still able to see that later in the day because I guess the argument is like, well, your heart rate's getting up. So if you don't track it, then it's not going to count toward your 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous. But it does. Like I think pretty much all, I mean, again, I have a Fitbit, but I think you'll still get like your zone minutes or whatever. And by I think, I mean, I know, at least for Fitbit. So really and truly, and this is actually like an honest to God question, what is the actual point of having a parenting mode so you can track that time parenting. Like, I actually don't get it. But again, I'm not the type of person to even track my strength work. But this also doesn't replace strength work. I guess I don't understand, like, what type of data are we trying to observe? To me, it's like if I'm doing laundry, like having like a laundry mode, or cleaning the apartment, having like a cleaning mode, or like a running errands mode. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's the equivalent to me. And it's not coming from a diminishing the energy that it takes to be a parent by any means. I'm just curious, why are we tracking this in a fitness tracker? If I'm being 100% honest, I think that Quaker, which is, how much are they worth? Okay, so it's not even its own company. It's owned by PepsiCo, which is worth $208 billion. Cool. We're proving my point. So if we actually want to help parents with, being seen, being valued, maybe even, working on including strength and cardio into the routines alongside taking care of one to numerous human beings that are little and can't take care of themselves, there's a lot of other things that Quaker and PepsiCo could be investing in. But yeah, parents, I would actually like to hear, like, would this help you get motivated or feel seen or like whatever? Or would you rather have affordable childcare? We're going to swipe left. Ooh, we have one more photo. This actually, I just had to take a screenshot. Oh no, I didn't take a screenshot. A follower sent this to me. I couldn't see the video because the creator blocked me years ago. So she just sent me a screenshot. So we're going to read the screenshot. If you're not implementing progressive overload, you might as well not work out. Barf. This is from Strong by Sarah. Again, she had me blocked a long time ago. Let's really, really briefly explain progressive overload. So that is essentially the idea that you are strategically progressing either with reps, sets, weights, or maybe something like tempo, range of motion over a period of time with the same exercises. Studies have shown that this is one of the best ways to progress your workouts to increase your muscle mass and bone density. We'll leave it there. There's a lot more to it, but that's pretty simple. So basically, Sarah is saying if you don't follow the basic guidelines of progressive overload, it's not even worth moving your body. And that fucking sucks. I fully disagree. There have been a number of times in my life, in clients' lives that I've worked with, where repetition or adding more load or adding more sets or even just like consistency week to week aren't an option. I remember about 2 years ago, I don't know what I did, but I really I fucked up my shoulder. And it was to the point where even holding weight like low, like suitcase position was absolutely brutal. So instead of losing the consistency that I had and the habit of going to the gym, moving my body, getting my heart rate up, lifting something in the best way that I could, this person thinks it would have been better if I just stopped all movement. What sense does that make? And I distinctly remember talking about this a lot during that time of just being like, this feels mentally so hard to continue showing up when I kind of know I'm just like maintaining. But that's the point. It takes a while to lose muscle mass. So instead of just being like all or nothing, like I can't work in a traditional progressive overload structure, so I might as well just stop moving my body altogether. Like that is such a terrible way to approach movement as a coach. It truly tells me that this person either has never worked with another person in their entire lives or they have like zero empathy. So anyway, any coach that discourages people from moving their bodies if they can't do it perfectly is not a good coach to me. So we are swiping left here. This is probably why she blocked me. Okay, we do have an actual video coming in, but I want to read just quickly what this says. And then if you want to read more about it, you can pause and read it again. But I actually just screen recorded this from my friend's story. It's a good one. This is a positive. So hopefully she won't be upset. So this is my friend Amy. She wrote rant incoming. And then it talks about this idea of the winter arc challenge, which I think I talked about last year. But essentially this is like the 3-month period between October and January where you're supposed to lock in and you got to push yourselves during the holiday season when everyone else slows down. So let's see what Amy has to say about it.
Hi guys. So I generally try not to really post much on here about what anyone else is doing, but I have seen more than a handful of people reposting this winter arc thing about this new made-up term that instead of slowing down during the time of year that, at least in the northern hemisphere, it's darker, it's colder, our bodies are kind of meant to slow down because we're not meant to push all year. We're going to use that as a jumpstart, a 3-month jumpstart to the new year, so that when we get to the new year, we can just continue to push again. And I'm reading this and I'm like, I fucking hate the fitness industry. Fucking hate all of this nonsense. This is someone who has a goal race in February, so it's not like I don't know. I do know. It's okay to slow down during the winter months. It's also okay to quietly work towards your goals without it having to be another 90-day masculine toxic challenge. Okay? This is like another Goggins type rhetoric that I just like can't handle. So, anywho, bless you if you're working towards your goals. Bless you if when it starts to get darker and colder, you'd like to rest and sleep more, because God forbid you have a balanced nervous system and that you're not pushing to make money for a broken capitalist system. Have a lovely Thursday.
I love her. Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more. And I think this is something I'll probably in 2026 make a whole video talking about this, because this is something that I've really grappled with this year specifically, of just having different seasons of, I guess, like life, but like different seasons during the year of like how hard you're pushing and where your focus is and how much like recovery time you're taking. Our bodies and our mind and our spirit, all of that, it's not meant to be at like 100% go all of the time. And this is coming from someone who's type A, loves hustle culture, lives in New York City. So this is something that I've really grappled with this year. At the beginning of the year, I made a video about this already, but I went really hard into like starting running. So I was really increasing my energy output. I got pretty like strict, not in a scary way, but pretty strict with my nutrition. And I pretty much cut out all alcohol. Leading into the summer, I slowly started adding some more of the fun stuff back into life. And then as I've gotten into the winter, just because of where my goals are with running, my energy output's been lower. Things have been cozier. We're having heavier foods, things like that. And I've definitely seen a difference and felt a difference in my body, not to the point where I'm like, oh my God, everything's awful. I've gained, all this weight. But I have a different physical and feeling difference for sure. And it's not all like positive or negative. I'm trying to remain very neutral about it. So this is why I'm not ready to make a whole video and sit down and chat about how I've felt. But I think that this goes along with what Amy's trying to say here, of just like, we're not meant to push all of the time. We're not meant to constantly be working toward, improvement or high optimization and however you want to phrase it. I think as this video comes out in November, I just want to sit here and say, like, I give you the permission to slow down as we enter the holidays. Slow down, enjoy things. Life is about balance, and we all have seasons of life, seasons of our year. Let's move into the last video. Oh, we're swiping right. And let's move into the last video.
One day, your body's going to become a priority, whether that's by choice or by consequence. A lot of people think that working out is about looking good in the mirror, but it's way more than that. It's about being able to wipe your own butt when you turn 80. It's about continuing to be able to climb a flight of stairs or just go for a walk. It's about the ability to maybe even enjoy the second half of your life more than the first half. Eventually, your body is going to become your priority. Don't wait until it becomes a consequence of age and illness. Make it your choice.
Papa, yes. Also, did everyone see me freak out when I noticed two cats playing in the background?
A lot of people think that
I really think that this message of moving your body now to enjoy the second part of your life later is so important and so overlooked. Especially in the country I live in, we work our entire lives saving up for retirement, hoping that Social Security benefits will still be there when we get older. Then to finally be able to retire and hopefully travel and see the world. But what happens when you're 65, 66, 67, 68? What happens if you can't travel now because your body can't handle it? What happens if you work your entire life and just in the time where you gain independence from work, you lose bodily independence? I'm never going to sit here and say, you have to do this, you have to strength train, you have to work on your power, you have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to be that type of coach, but I will give you the risk versus reward. I will lay out the pros and cons, because I think the best power that you have is to be educated on the decisions you're making and what the potential outcomes can be. And to me, the risk of not taking care of your body is too high. So we're gonna swipe right on this. And with that, we have 4 pieces of content that we swiped right on. And we're gonna take a quick stroll through memory lane so you know what you're voting on.
Instead of slowing down during the time of year that, at least in the northern hemisphere, it's darker, it's colder, our bodies are kind of meant to slow down because we're not meant to push all year. We're going to use that as a jump start, a 3-month jump start to the new year, so that when we get to the new year, we can just continue to push again.
One day, your body's going to become a priority, whether that's by choice or by consequence.
So again, make sure you head over to the community tab. It'll say posts on the top so you can vote on your favorite piece of content of the month. If you find anything that you think would be a great addition to this video, definitely send it over to me, and stay tuned for December because we got a little Vlogmas coming up. You might get one of these every day. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that, and I will see you all in the next one.